delusional fan base that follows her disrespected the WNBA players by saying she's going to go in that league and tear it apart. There were actually odds on she's third or fourth in betting odds on being MVP of the WNBA.
We got an update on the Unrivaled ratings for last Friday night, and well, as you can expect, they unraveled, as I like to say. Not good. I mean, we're basically at half the ratings.
Women's basketball has never been short on talent or drama. But these days, all eyes are on a new league with big promises that might unravel faster than anyone expected. One polarizing investor thought he could reshape the sport in his image, but he may have underestimated a rising rookie's power. Here's how one young star, a massive offer, and a league's survival are all colliding spectacularly.
Like I said earlier, they actually had odds that, she was like third or fourth in the betting odds to be MVP of the WNBA. That's such a slap in the face to every WNBA player. It's unbelievable.
When
right?
news broke that a fresh women's basketball league was launching, the hype machine went into overdrive. Their pitch sounded too good to fail. Shorter seasons, 3-on-3 or 5-on-5 matchups, depending on the segment, flashy marketing campaigns, and an investor list that read like a who's who of sports moguls.
She has decided not to do Unrivaled, even though Aaliyah Boston's doing it, Lexi Hull is doing it, Kate Martin is doing it, and despite all the rumors, and I'm sure the push that was put on her. But Clark has all the leverage in this situation, and I'm not saying she flexed it, but she was comfortable enough in her position to make the decision. And
fans who had been clamoring for more women's basketball options finally felt heard. Sponsors saw a chance to reach new audiences. Even casual viewers got curious, tuned in by the bold promise of unrivaled competition. But high-risk ventures demand star power. Without it, a grand idea can crumble under its own weight. In this case, the success of the entire project soon hinged on attracting the biggest names in the game.
There's a lot of investors in this league. One investor, been trying to keep quiet about, his investment in the league ever since his comments that he made about a young rookie. Pretty much, had him in the headlines for about a month and a half. That is Geno Auriemma, dog. I'm here to tell you, he's part owner of this league.
And no name shines brighter right now than Caitlin Clark. The league's opening weeks commanded a decent splash of attention. But behind the scenes, the investors were placing enormous bets on bringing in the one player everyone said would tilt the scales. Little did they know that winning over a superstar is easier said than done, especially if you've spent months publicly questioning her skills. Yet even before the big letdown, there was a sense of foreboding. Some fans pointed out how this might turn into just another overhyped endeavor. Others believed real progress was being made. Reality would bite soon enough. As the numbers rolled in, enter Geno Auriemma. His name, at least in women's basketball circles, is pretty much synonymous with success. He's led powerhouse college teams to multiple championships, shaped the careers of top-tier athletes, and built an aura of undeniable basketball clout. When rumors started swirling that he'd put money into this brand new league, interest skyrocketed. If the famed coach saw potential, then surely something big was brewing, right? That optimism took a turn when Auriemma's earlier comments about Caitlin Clark resurfaced. He'd once cast doubts on her ability to thrive in a league as physical as the WNBA, questioning whether she could handle the shift from college to pro ball. Some fans brushed these remarks off, saying he was just being a tough critic. Others took them as a serious sign of disrespect, especially when Clark proved every doubter wrong with an explosive rookie campaign. For Geno, the bigger issue was that these remarks might have also jeopardized his relationship with Clark, particularly if he needed her to help rescue a struggling new venture. It was like he'd called her out, only to realize he would soon be counting on her for the biggest lift of all. The irony was palpable, and when things started to go south for the new league, that irony turned downright painful. Before we delve into the specifics of that new league, let's talk about Caitlin Clark herself. She first broke onto the national stage with a string of jaw-dropping college performances that had fans glued to their screens. In a sport that often struggles for mainstream recognition, Clark became that rare generational talent people simply couldn't ignore. Her deep threes, pinpoint passes, and fearless court presence propelled her team to victory after victory, leaving commentators scrambling for superlatives. Then came the jump to the WNBA, a transition that has been notoriously difficult for many collegiate stars. Critics said Clark wasn't ready for the league's physicality or pace. Yet from her first pro game, she erupted onto the scene with monster performances in points and assists. It wasn't just about scoring. She ran the floor like a seasoned veteran, orchestrating plays with such confidence that even veteran defenders were left off balance. As she collected new records and racked up eye-popping stats, she also built a devoted fan base. People who hadn't watched a second of women's basketball were now tuning in to catch a glimpse of the rookie who seemed to do the impossible. If ever there was a perfect athlete to anchor a fledgling league desperate for attention, it was Caitlin Clark, and everyone knew it. Despite a promising rollout, the new league's trajectory was anything but upward. Initial viewership hit a respectable number, but by the second and third weeks, it nosedived. Anxious owners watched the metrics shrink from around 300,000 viewers to barely 100,000 on primetime slots. That's a free fall no one wants to see, especially after pumping millions into marketing. Ticket sales for live events were also underwhelming, and the glaring lack of top-tier names on the rosters became impossible to ignore. Behind the polished press releases, panic was brewing. Investors had bet large sums of money on capturing a wave of new women's basketball fans. To do that, they needed star power, someone who could rival the mania Steph Curry or LeBron James generated on the men's side. At first, it seemed like Angel Reese might anchor the operation, but while she had her share of fans, the overall pull wasn't enough to sustain strong ratings week after week. That's where Caitlin Clark entered the conversation. Every time she stepped on a WNBA court, viewers soared, merchandise sales spiked, and social media buzz roared to life. The new league's owners realized they needed that effect in their corner, but bridging the gap between "we need her" and "she's on board" turned out to be trickier than they ever imagined. Word on the street was that the league dangled a contract so lucrative, most of us would have jumped at it without a second thought. Think 7 figures in just a couple of months territory. It seemed like a no-brainer from a financial standpoint, especially for a young athlete looking to secure her future. Yet Clark quietly decided the answer was no. Why would anyone turn down $1 million payday for an 8-week stint? The reasons are more layered than you might think. First, there was the issue of rest. Clark had just finished a draining college season, rolled almost immediately into a groundbreaking WNBA rookie campaign, and was juggling endorsement deals that demanded her time and energy. Signing up for yet another league, especially one with uncertain physical demands and scheduling, might have been the straw that broke the camel's back. Then there was the respect factor. Auriemma's past remarks about Clark had not gone unnoticed. She is far from the type to nurse grudges publicly, but sources suggest she wasn't eager to boost a league that had, in part, ties to someone who once dismissed her abilities. Add to that the bigger picture. Her brand was skyrocketing. She was a proven draw in the WNBA and had endorsement deals lined up that fit her long-term vision. Accepting a quick cash grab with a fledgling league felt short-sighted. If the league imploded, she'd be tied to that downfall. If it limped along, she'd be risking injury or fatigue for a questionable payoff. So no was the choice, and it might have been her biggest power move yet. From the outside, it might have seemed impossible for a single refusal to tank an entire operation. But the reality was, this new league had pinned much of its future on snagging the biggest sensation in women's hoops. For Geno Auriemma and his fellow investors, Clark's refusal wasn't just a missed opportunity. It was a statement. Insiders reported frantic strategy meetings, phone calls at all hours, and last-ditch pitches to sweeten the pot for Clark. None of it mattered. She'd already made her choice. Meanwhile, social media started to buzz with rumors of a meltdown behind closed doors. Some claimed that Auriemma was finally tasting the consequences of underestimating the rookie who soared to superstardom. Others said multiple investors were threatening to pull out unless the league found a quick way to reverse its ratings freefall. Reality sank in fast. Without Caitlin Clark, the league would have to rely on lesser-known players and fleeting hype from college standouts not yet at Clark's level. Ratings that had already halved might tumble even further. Sponsors who'd been on the fence were now backing away, And Geno, once brimming with confidence in his magic touch, had to confront the possibility that his golden track record in coaching didn't automatically translate to launching a professional league. Beyond the drama of one league's struggles lies a bigger question. What does it take to truly elevate women's basketball? Many see this fiasco as a cautionary tale. Throwing money at star players may yield a quick bump, but sustainable growth requires more, like thoughtful promotion, decent infrastructure, and genuine respect for the athletes. Some critics have pointed out that women's basketball has a history of bold new leagues popping up with big talk, only to flame out when they can't secure the marquee talent. Meanwhile, the WNBA, while far from perfect, continues to solidify its foundation. Caitlin Clark's massive popularity only helps the league's momentum. Every time she suits up, new viewers tune in, and advertisers realize there's a gold mine waiting if they invest smartly. It's not that the new league was doomed from the start, but the short-sighted approach, banking everything on one player, especially one who had reasons to decline, exposed cracks in the plan. Clark's fans often say she's leading a renaissance in women's basketball, making it more mainstream than ever before. Her refusal to prop up a shaky venture sends a powerful message to fans, players, and investors alike. Turning down $1 million check isn't a decision most people make lightly. But Caitlin Clark isn't like most people. Her brand thrives on authenticity, hard-earned respect, and the freedom to set her terms. She's in it for the long haul, not just a flashy paycheck. And she might have inadvertently taught the new league's investors an expensive lesson about how star athletes hold the real leverage. Meanwhile, Geno Auriemma finds himself on the sidelines of a drama he helped create, watching as ratings drop and sponsors grow wary. His belief that the star talent would rally around his new vision might have been wishful thinking, especially after he publicly criticized the same athlete he needed most. Now he's stuck with a league that feels incomplete without that one key player who could single-handedly draw tens of thousands of new fans. As for Clark, she's busy carving out one of the most impressive rookie legacies in pro basketball history. Endorsements roll in. Fans flock to her games. Her voice in the sport grows stronger day by day. And with each choice she makes, she proves she's not just a gifted player. She's a savvy businesswoman with a clear sense of her worth. The story is still unfolding. A new league that once brimmed with promise now faces dwindling ratings and restless investors, all while the player they courted so eagerly continues to shine elsewhere. It's a reminder that, in sports, success is never guaranteed, no matter how deep your pockets are or how big your ambition is. Often, it boils down to respect, earning it, giving it, and making decisions that align with it. This league regroup and find fresh ways to win back fans, or will it fade into yet another footnote in women's basketball history? And how many more records will Caitlin Clark shatter on her way to superstardom? One thing's for sure, the power dynamics in women's sports are shifting. The real question is, who will adapt and thrive? And who will be left behind? Let us know your take. Are we seeing the downfall of a league that overpromised and underdelivered? Or can it still turn things around? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tap that like button if you enjoyed this story. And be sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. After all, in the fast-changing world of women's basketball, anything can happen next.